to NMP Talk Show, where we delve into the depths of mental health wellness with compassion, understanding, and expertise. Our goal is to provide a safe space for open conversations about mental health, destigmatize the issues surrounding it, and offer insights and resources to support your journey towards a healthier mind and soul.
Welcome to NMP Talk Show. And today's episode, we're talking about the reversal of type 2 diabetes. And this episode has been inspired by a book called Type 2 Diabetes Reversal Secrets. So we want to delve into it, and we do have the author on the show who would gladly want to tell us the secrets that we need to know about reversing this type 2 diabetes. A lot of people think about diabetes and think maybe it can be cured, but only to find that it can't, but we can reverse it. How? Igor is here for us to tell us. Igor, welcome to NMP Talk Show. Please tell us who you are.
Neo, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm very excited because I love talking about this stuff. So as everybody knows by now, my name is Igor. I run a personal training company, both online as well as in person in the Greater Toronto area, that specializes in type 2 diabetics. And of course, I'm the author of the book Type 2 Diabetes Reversal Secrets, as well as 15 others. And the way I got into working with type 2 diabetics in the first place is because it started with one client who was a diabetic. And I wanted to help that client, but I didn't know exactly how. I mean, I have my degree in kinesiology, my personal training certification, etc., and they teach generalities. They don't teach chronic conditions or special cases. So we know in general that exercise is good, but then I'm always wondering, is there one form of exercise better than a different form of exercise? So that sent me down a long path of trying to figure out how can I help this one client. Now, there were no courses, no certifications on this topic at that time, and there still aren't. So I had to do my own research. And when I mean research, I mean real medical research. I don't mean TikTok videos on YouTube. I mean, I dug into the medical literature to find out what does the medical literature have to say about the right way to exercise, eat, and supplement for type 2 diabetes. And then once I had that information, I started using it with this one client. She improved. I started getting more clients with type 2 diabetes, and they improved. Once they improved, I started teaching it to my staff who had clients with type 2 diabetes, and they improved. Once we had a few dozen success stories in person and a few hundred through my blog as well as through other sources, I published a book with my methods.
Awesome. Wow. That's like a great work that went into this book, because you're not just writing out of what you think or what you've learned, but what you've experienced. And that's what I like about this book. I've gone through a few chapters of the book, and I was very impressed about it. And the practicality in the book, I saw the pictures that appealed to me more than anything else.
Yes,
I love pictures. If I page through a book and there's no pictures, I have to really pull myself down and say, you have to do this.
right.
But if I see pictures, I get stimulated very quickly. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. Or childish something. I don't know. But it does work. And thanks
That's
for
perfect.
that.
Yeah, my pleasure. I mean, and that's I really wanted it to be written for the person who is a type diabetic with no background in anatomy or physiology. I wanted it to be consumed. I don't want it to just sit there on the shelf because it doesn't benefit anybody if it's not getting read. So I really wanted to make it user friendly and conversational.
And it was. That I have to give it to you.
Good. Happy to hear. Thank you.
In the book, you're talking about the myths that that are running all around about diabetes. Can you share some of those myths, and particularly the harmful ones, and explain why we don't have to follow those myths?
Sure. One of the myths you already mentioned, and is that type 2 diabetes can be cured. It cannot be cured, but it can be reversed. So what's the difference? It's not just semantics. The word cure means it goes away permanently and there is nothing you can do to bring it back. But that's not true. You can improve it using exercise, nutrition, supplements. And as a result, your blood sugar can lower. But if you go back to the way you used to eat, the way you used to, not move, etc., your blood sugar will go back up. So it can be reversed, but it can't be cured. In other words, you can't keep doing what you're doing now and have no diabetes. You have to change what you're doing now. That's the difference between a reversal and a cure. That's one myth. Another common myth is that diabetics should avoid fruits. The thinking behind it goes, well, I have high blood sugar. Fruits are sweet, therefore they have sugar, and therefore I shouldn't have fruits. And that's not true. That shows a misunderstanding of two things. One, sugar. Sugar is actually three different things. It's glucose,
Mm.
it's fructose, and the third molecule is galactose. Okay. Now, glucose, not surprisingly, raises blood glucose faster and to a higher extent than the other two. Fructose, which is the predominant sugar found in fruits, doesn't raise blood sugar
Mhm.
to the same extent or with the same speed. So that's one reason why it's different than other types of sugar. The other reason why fruit is perfectly fine and even slightly beneficial to type 2 diabetics is because it's a high source of fiber. As I write in my book, fiber is the second most powerful nutritional factor when it comes to diabetes reversal. And fruits are a strong source of fiber, especially dried fruits like dates, prunes, etc.
Mm. Oh, that's good. Because I love fruits, and the moment I heard about sugar, then I kind of like, so should I not go for a watermelon anymore? Sweet fruits like those.
Yeah.
I was skeptical about it until I read your book, and now you're explaining the differences of sugar types.
Yes.
The,
The cool thing
the
is, all fruits are good fruits. There's only versions of good. There's no such thing as a bad
yeah,
fruit, even for
yeah.
diabetics.
Okay, okay. But does it mean that you have to um, take care of how much you consume them, or it doesn't matter?
Makes no difference. So the only two nutritional factors that make a big difference to
Mm,
the blood sugar of type diabetics are one, total calories, two, fiber content. These are the only big two. There are a bunch of
mm,
smaller ones. A lot of people are thinking, what about carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are
mm,
way less important than people believe. In fact,
mm,
in one of the studies that went into my book, one group of people ate a high carb diet, the other group ate a low carb diet, but both the calories in both groups were the same. Blood sugar was
mm.
reduced by the same amount in both groups. Okay, so carbs don't make as much of a difference as people think. Now, I should say that although blood sugar was reduced by the same amount, insulin was reduced by a greater amount in the low carb group. So there is a role for carbs. However, the two biggest factors by far are calories and fiber. As long as somebody is meeting those requirements, they can have as many fruits as they want. As long as it's within their caloric budget, it's okay. Um, as long as they're meeting their minimum fiber requirements, that's okay. So there's no limit on fruits.
Okay, awesome. I'm getting my fruits after the show.
Enjoy. Have a nice big
Well,
fruit salad.
I will be having one thing about Igor. Like Igor says, no, I don't have an issue here. But thanks
Perfect.
so much for explaining that. And one other factor that contributes to type 2 diabetes, most especially, is our lifestyle.
Yes.
So how can we change our lifestyle so that we can curb this? Make sure that we do have a lower blood sugar levels or acceptable sugar levels.
Yeah. So whenever we use the word lifestyle, it's such a big, vague thing. So let me define what
Yeah.
lifestyle is. In my
Mm,
mind, it's four simple things in no
mm,
particular order. One, exercise. Two, eating the right way. Three, supplements, and that one is debatable if it's part of lifestyle or something else, but it is beneficial.
yeah.
And four,
Yeah.
sleep. That's it when it comes to lifestyle in my mind. So let's
Mm,
break them down. In terms of nutrition, we just talked about it briefly, but let me elaborate on that. Calories are the
mm,
single most important factor for diabetes reversal. How do we calculate importance or effectiveness? Well,
mm,
the primary measurement in diabetes is either fasting blood sugar or A1C. I like A1C better because it's the average blood sugar over the last 3 months. So, by
yeah.
how much does normalizing a person's caloric intake lower A1C? By as much as 4%, which is huge considering that a diabetic A1C is over 6.5%. A 4% drop is giant. Now, if you're 6.5, you're not going to go down to 2.5. But if somebody's at 11 for their A1C, they will go down. They have the potential to go down to 7. So that's the
Mm,
most impactful factor. The second most impactful factor is fiber, as I mentioned. Now, the fiber requirements of type 2 diabetics are different than the fiber requirements of non-diabetics. Non-diabetics need 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. Diabetics need between 17 and 20 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. And by how much can optimizing somebody's fiber intake improve their A1C? By as much as about 2.5%. So quite significant. Again, these are giant changes. These are bigger than the best medications out there, like metformin and so on. And there are certain supplements as well. There are 4 of them that can lower A1C by 1% or more. A couple of them are milk thistle and alpha lipoic acid. So that's on the nutrition side of things. On the exercise side of things, it's always a question of what we call in the world of exercise physiology, the FIT principle, FITT, which stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. Frequency is how many days per week. Intensity is, when it comes to cardio, your pulse. When it comes to strength training, is how much weight you're lifting. Time is, when it comes to cardio, it's simply duration. When it comes to strength training, time is sets and reps. And type, cardio or strength training. And so there is an optimal exercise prescription for diabetes reversal and insulin resistance. And so we need both cardio and strength training. Each one individually can lower A1C by between 0.8 and 1.2%. Combined, unfortunately, it's not a case of 1 + 1 = 2. It's a case of like 1 + 1 = 1.2. Combined, it can lower your A1C by about 1.2 to 1.5% in a matter of 3 to 6 months. So there is a right way to exercise for diabetes, which is different than the right way to exercise for high blood pressure or high cholesterol or something else, or fat loss. Supplements, we talked about those earlier, and sleep. So who would ever think that sleep impacts diabetes? But it does, for a few direct reasons and a few indirect reasons. Directly, people who sleep less have higher insulin requirements for the same amount of food. Now, so let's say one person sleeps 8 hours per night, one person sleeps 6 hours per night. The person who sleeps 8 hours per night requires less insulin to bring their blood sugar down to normal. They might have the same blood sugar level, but the amount of insulin required to bring it down is higher in the person who gets less sleep. Okay, that's the direct level. On the indirect level, so we're making the assumption that they're eating the same amount of food, but people who sleep less actually eat more. So we get a double whammy. So you have more cravings because you're more tired, so you want more energy. You can get more energy by sleeping better, or you can get more energy by eating food. Calories are energy. So because of that, there's both the direct effects of sleep and the indirect effects of sleep. So that's going to be by lifestyle. If you have a lifestyle conducive to health, it's going to help your type 2 diabetes, but also other issues, your cholesterol levels, your high blood pressure, etc.
You're tickling my ears now.
Perfect.
and that's why I'm smiling, because I love to sleep.
Good. Keep it up.
I love to sleep. So now I've got more incentive to sleep even more.
Yes, keep it going.
My wife will be listening to this show later on, and then we're going to have a nice discussion.
How to get more sleep.
Yes. Like, babes, the professional says I must sleep a lot. Yeah.
Yes. A lot, but not too much.
Right. Oh, okay. There's a balance over there. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm saying this because I also have type 2 diabetes. And and when I read this, it just resonated with me so much that when I was diagnosed first time, if I felt like my life was shattering. But the more I learn about it, how to manage it and all of that, and now, boom, your book comes, just making everything so easy.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
and it needs to be precise. Like I said, exercise in general is good, but there's a specific way to exercise, the right way to exercise for type 2 diabetes. I should also differentiate that there are differences in nutrition between overweight diabetics and normal weight diabetics. As I mentioned earlier, in overweight diabetics, the 2 most important factors are calories and fiber. Okay. Now, by definition, in normal weight diabetics, they figured out the right calories because they're normal weight. Fiber is still important, but what becomes extra important for normal weight diabetics is actually protein. In research done on normal weight diabetics, they compare normal weight diabetics to non-diabetics of the same weight. And normal weight diabetics have a higher percentage body fat, again, at the same weight. And so why is that? Because their calories are not composed of enough protein. When somebody gets adequate protein as a type 2 diabetic, that also helps their blood sugar levels on par with fiber. So for normal weight diabetics, the 2 most important nutritional factors are fiber and protein. For overweight diabetics, it's calories and fiber.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, let's go back to your book again.
Sure.
At one point, you were talking about the importance of individualized approaches in managing
Yes.
diabetes. So, how can someone determine the best strategies for their unique situation?
Yeah, your best tool for individualizing anything is measurements. When it comes to diabetics, the measurement is a glucometer. So you measure your blood sugar levels. So
Yeah.
my recommendations in the book, the best I can do is general recommendations because I'm not working with a specific person. What I do with
Yeah.
clients on a one-on-one basis is I implement one of these strategies. And before we start, I tell them for 1 week, track your blood sugar twice per day. So we have a decent amount of, we get a good baseline.
Like
Then we
data,
start
yeah.
Exactly. Then we start implementing these. So first, I'll say just eat more fiber, or maybe and I'll give them the choice. Do you want to do one strategy at a time so we can figure out is that one strategy working, or do you want to throw everything at it? And there's pros and cons to both. If you want, we can go into the pros and cons of both approaches. But whatever method they choose, whatever approach they choose, as they're starting to implement, they're continuing to track their blood sugar. And for every week or every 2 weeks, I'll analyze their blood sugar in response to what we're doing. If it's going in the right direction at the level we expect, perfect, we're on the right track. If it's not going in the level we expect, then let's change things. Whether that means increasing the amount of exercise, increasing the fiber, decreasing the calories, changing different supplements, increasing the dose, combining two different supplements, etc. So there are a lot of levers we can pull. And the nice thing is, any one thing by itself improves blood sugar levels. Just exercise improves the right way, improves blood sugar levels. Just nutrition the right way improves blood sugar levels. Just certain supplements without changes in nutrition or exercise improve blood sugar levels. But combine all three, you have the potential of normalizing blood sugar levels in a matter of 2 to 3 months, if you're very aggressive about it. Or you could be more gradual about it, but it's going to take longer. But again, the crux, the centerpiece of individualization starts with regular measurements using a glucometer.
Okay. All right. No, that is loud and clear. So
Perfect.
let's break it down just a little bit more there. The role that you believe nutrition plays in reversing type 2 diabetes. Do we have any specific dietary patterns that can be recommended for that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I like to study individual nutrients, individual factors, as opposed to an entire diet. Like I don't like to look
Yeah.
at just the keto diet or the paleo diet. The reason for that is because if somebody is on the keto, the paleo, the Mediterranean diet, a diet is a lot of changes. You're changing the foods, the calories, the macronutrients, the micronutrients. You're changing a lot of things at the same time. So you don't know what's causing the blood sugar improvements. I want to see research on just one individual factor, just calories, just protein, just fiber, just carbs. This way we can actually pinpoint what it is that's causing the changes. Because what has the worst compliance to it? A diet. Tell somebody to get on the keto diet, Mediterranean diet, name any diet, compliance is equally poor across almost every diet. So rather than giving somebody a diet to follow, giving them individual things to do, quotas to meet is much easier. So again, for overweight diabetics, the only two things that matter are calories and fiber. Normal weight diabetics, protein and fiber. And so I just tell people, here are the foods with the highest fiber content. And again, diabetics need between 17 and 20 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. And so I'll explain. Here are the highest fiber foods. Eat enough of those to meet your minimum requirements. For example, some of the richest sources of fiber are buckwheat, beans, peas, lentils. Within the bean family, black beans have the highest amount of fiber compared to garbanzo or red kidney beans or white kidney beans, etc. But all beans are good. Lentils, peas, those are all high from the starch family. There's also the fruits. The highest are the blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries. Dried fruits are also exceptionally high. Things like dates, prunes, dried apricots, figs, those are exceptionally high in fiber as well. There are also other things like flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds. These are all examples of things that are high in fiber. Combine all these, and as long as you meet your minimum fiber requirements, that's all you need. You can eat whatever else you want. If you want to have a pizza, cool, have a pizza. But as long as it meets your minimum fiber requirements, so you have a pizza, but you also have a spoonful of flax seeds. You have your pizza, but also have an entire cup of blackberries. So again, calories are king and fiber is queen for overweight diabetics. And then they're both kings when it comes to if protein and fiber are both kings when it comes to normal weight diabetics.
Mm, sure. So you're talking about pizza, right? Um,
For instance,
you're touching about on things that I really like, and
perfect.
it was a battle because um, some of the things you had to let them go for a bit just to
Yeah,
see if everything stabilizes, and pizza was one of those, and takeaways easier to have than a prepared meal at home with
yes,
the seeds that you're talking about and all that.
yeah,
um so to circumvent that, let's talk about exercising.
sure.
So how does exercise contribute to blood sugar management? Because if your blood sugar levels are very high, um, does it mean that I can push myself to exercise so that it drops? And if that's the case, for somebody who's new to physical activities, what recommendations do you have there?
Yeah, so good question. Um, in an acute sense, in terms of one workout, if your blood sugar is excessively high, over about
Yeah,
15, 16, 17
yeah.
millimeters of mercury, millimoles, then it's good not to exercise at the moment. Wait for it to drop. If you're on medications, take your medications, drop the blood sugar first, get it
Mm-hmm.
below 15, 16, 17, and then start exercising. Now, if you are starting
Uh,
blood glucose is below that, you can exercise all you want, go for it. So that's in an acute sense. In a chronic sense, there are two mechanisms by which exercise improves blood sugar. One is called glucose disposal. That is, the fuel for working muscles is glucose or sugar. And as long as muscles are contracting, glucose is fueling that. So it's getting out of the blood and inside the muscle cells. That's one
mm,
mechanism through which exercise lowers blood sugar. The other mechanism by which exercise can lower blood sugar levels is something called glycogen storage. The plural word for glucose is glycogen. So 3, 4, 5 glucose molecules together are called glycogen. So glycogen is stored in different tissues, including the liver, which can store about 90 grams, and the muscles, which can store about 350 grams. Now, if somebody doesn't do any strength training and muscles atrophy, well, muscles can't hold 350 grams of sugar anymore of glycogen.
mm,
Now, if they regrow their muscle mass, they can store those 350 grams and maybe more. So it gives glucose a storage form other than the blood. Imagine you have a
uh,
bookshelf with space for
yeah.
10 books, but you have 11 books to put on the bookshelf. What's going to happen to the one book you
Mm,
can't fit on there? It's not going to go on the
yeah.
bookshelf. That's what
Mm,
happens. Imagine same thing happens with blood sugar. You have 330 grams of storage capacity, but 350 grams that need to be stored. Where do the extra 20 grams go? Well, they can't go inside the muscles because the muscles don't have room, so they stay in the blood.
mm.
So that's how exercise can reduce blood sugar levels chronically. Now, both cardio and strength training accomplish the first mechanism of glucose disposal, but only strength training accomplishes the second mechanism of glycogen storage because only strength training builds muscle. Cardio doesn't build muscle. It's good for many other reasons. It's fantastic for you, but it doesn't build muscle. So it's good to combine strength training plus cardio for different reasons.
Okay, I'm gonna build my muscles.
Perfect. Start pumping those
create,
weights.
create more room for my diabetes, my sugar levels.
Exactly.
So, if you walk into a gymnasium, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has a bottle. We don't know what's in there. Hopefully, we know it could be water or
Yeah.
supplements, not alcohol. So, let's talk about supplements. Which supplements can you recommend?
Yeah.
That could help in managing this diabetes.
Yeah. Whenever anybody asks me about supplements for any condition, whether that's cholesterol or
Yeah.
diabetes, etc., I always ask myself, what is the purpose of these supplements? And it's the most obvious
Mhm.
thing in the world to make that condition better. How do we make diabetes better? Well, there are two
Yeah.
ways. We can either decrease the spike of blood sugar after a meal, or we can decrease the duration of the spike. So, how high should blood sugar go after a meal? Well, it shouldn't go any higher than 7.2 millimoles per liter. The official
Mhm.
diagnosis for diabetes is made when it goes up above 11.0 millimoles per liter. That's after a meal. What should be the duration of the spike? it should be no longer than 2 hours. Okay. So no matter what meal you had, within 2 hours, your blood sugar should be back down to normal, between 4.5 and 5.5, thereabouts. Okay. Now, if and again, doesn't matter what you had, how much you had. Could have been a giant bowl of pasta. Doesn't matter. Within 2 hours, it should be back down to normal. So in a diabetic, blood sugar can go above 7.2, and the duration of the spike can be longer than 2 hours. So we're looking at supplements through those two lenses. Does any supplement either decrease the spike or the duration of the spike? To that extent, there are only 4 supplements that I'm aware of that reduce A1C by 1% or more. Those 4 are milk thistle, alpha lipoic acid, ginger, and aloe vera. Okay, these are the only 4 that do it effectively. One other supplement that does it conditionally effectively is chromium. But the reason I say conditionally, it only does it in chromium deficient individuals. And it's very easy to test for chromium deficiency. Just ask the doctor for a blood test for chromium. That run it if chromium levels are low, going from low to normal is going to be very, very beneficial to blood sugar levels. But if it's already normal, going from normal to excessive won't do anything.
Nicely explained. Like that.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We talked about sleeping, right?
Yes.
And you spoke about somebody who sleeps 8 hours and the other is sleeping 6 hours.
Yes.
Now, recommendations there, because a lot of time sleeping is being overlooked. When
Yes.
we having health discussions, we will talk about medication, we talk about supplements and all of that, but sleeping usually creeps in at a very late stage, of the
Yes.
discussion. How can our sleeping quality be improved?
Yeah. So most people aren't even doing the bare basics, and the bare basics are the most important thing is regularity of bedtime. So whatever time you go to bed at that time every time. Okay. Including weekends. Okay. Now this is important just to get it normal. Okay. And the reason this is important is because if you're not going to bed at the same time or within about 15 minutes of the same time every night, you're messing with your body's internal clock. You're going to bed in one time zone one day and a different time zone another day, and a time zone in a different day. So it's really messing with your body's clock. So regularity is important, including on weekends. And weekends are often what mess people up. So that's like the bare basics. Now, some people say I do all the bare basics. I keep my room temperature the right temperature. There's no electronics in my bedroom, and it's a cool room, etc. And I still can't sleep well. Then most people's first approaches are supplements like magnesium, melatonin, lavender, stuff like that. Now, they're okay, but nothing has 100% effectiveness rate. Okay, magnesium is only about 60 to 80%. Melatonin is about 40 to 50% effective. About 40 to 50% of people who take melatonin will find it helps. It does what it's supposed to do. It improves sleep. About 20 or 30% of people who take melatonin, nothing happens. And for about 20% of people who take melatonin, their sleep actually gets worse. My preference for the most effective intervention for sleep improvement is something called CBTI. CBT stands for cognitive behavioral therapy, and I is insomnia. So it's cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. This has a way higher effectiveness rate at about 85%. And the durability of results is very, very high. Unlike magnesium or melatonin, which even if they work, if you don't take it one night, you don't sleep well that night. With CBTI, after you finish the, let's say, 6 to 10 week training program, you're pretty much good for your entire life. So it's going to be much more difficult. It's going to be much more labor intensive, but only for 6 to 10 weeks. So these are the different methods of improving sleep.
Hey, now I'm guilty. Guilty as charged.
Bedtime regularity is key and overlooked a lot.
I do not have regular times of sleeping.
Yeah.
With my work, I get more creative at night.
Yeah.
So I find myself, during the day I can work, but I'm not that intense in working. But then when the sun sets and then it's nighttime, then my creative juices only come now.
Yeah.
And I find myself working throughout the night until 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Only then that I go back, I go to sleep.
Yeah.
But
So maybe
I would sleep 8 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe one thing you can do is you can set your bedtime at 2 a.m. and then wake up 8 hours later at 10 a.m.
But it has to be consistent.
Yes, consistently go to bed at 2 a.m. Which
Right.
might be out of sync with your wife. I don't know.
I
But
know. That's why I'm giggling. Like,
yeah, I'm kind of the same
That
as you.
will not-
Like, I work pretty well throughout the day, but my best ideas are coming to me as I'm trying to fall asleep. What I
yeah.
personally do is I keep a
Mm,
notepad next to my bed, and I just, as ideas are popping into my head, I'll turn on the light,
mm,
write them down, try to go back to sleep. Maybe a few
mm,
more ideas pop up, and I'll write those down and go back to bed. Or
mm.
maybe no more ideas pop up, and the reason I'm afraid to go to sleep is because I feel like I'm going to forget all these great ideas. But if I have them
Yes.
written down, I
Yes.
can fall asleep just fine.
Yeah. Wouldn't you recommend using a phone? Because we all have these phones to jot those
Not
down.
so I'll actually write it down on a piece of paper. And the reason I don't
Okay.
like doing it on my phone is because it keeps you awake longer. So I don't actually want to look at the bright light from the phone. I'd rather have the dim light that's embedded in my
Uh,
bed. So
yeah.
that's why I don't like to use my phone for that.
Okay. Okay. Now it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a few professionals on the show, and they're also discouraging using a cell phone, especially an hour before you sleep, so that it can improve your sleep.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. There's a few reasons for that. One is the blue light reason, but with
like,
modern
yeah.
phones, that's not an issue anymore because they almost all have blue light blockers after sunset. So that's not the
Yeah.
real issue anymore. The bigger issue
Yeah.
is how much is on our phone. Maybe you just logged in to jot something down, but then you see you got a text message, you got a Facebook message, you got an Instagram DM, and then you're going to
Yeah.
check all that. Your brain's going to be reeling. Maybe you got a news story about something that happened in a different part of the world. So your
Yeah.
brain's just going to be reeling. That's why I like just a piece of paper. A for the light effects, and B because the only thing I have is there just paper. No tabs, no other windows, no messages.
Mm, mm, mm. Sure. So, let's talk about my audience. Let's assume some in my audience have been struggling with diabetes for quite a long
Yeah,
time, for many years, right?
yeah,
And they've gone from taking pills to insulin injections and all of those kind. And you get to a point where you're like, it's done.
yeah.
Any word of hope that you can impart, in this regard?
Yes. So diabetes is reversible in a high percent of the population, but not 100%. Unfortunately, if somebody is on insulin, it's not reversible at that point. However, what they can do is they can reduce the amount of insulin as they need. So maybe they don't need 20 units per day. Maybe they can get it down to 10 units or even 8 units. We've had a client who went down from 14 to 2 units. Now she still needs insulin for life, but only 2 units of insulin. So again, all
Mm,
these lifestyle recommendations that I made earlier will apply even to diabetics who are on insulin, even diabetics who've had diabetes for 30, 40 years. I have case studies on my website, on my blog of diabetics who've been diabetic for 40 years and they successfully reversed their diabetes using what I just talked about earlier on this show.
mm,
Um,
mm.
so there is hope. Again, it's reversible in a high percent of the population, not 100% of the population, but it's improvable in just about 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So how can we get hold of your book? I mean, there's
Just
a
go on
lot of
to
tools there.
yeah. There's two ways. One, go on Amazon and type in the title of the book, Type 2
Yeah.
Diabetes Reversal Secrets. Or if you can't
Yeah.
remember that title, type in my
Yeah.
first name, Igor, and diabetes, and that'll pop up.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks. So during your research on this book, when you're writing this book, I know you collaborated with some professionals there, so that they can input on some of the researches that you found. Are there any developments in diabetes in the future that we could be excited about?
Most of the developments aren't in terms of lifestyle. Lifestyle we have
Yeah.
it basically we figured it out. We figured
Yeah.
out what we need to eat, how to exercise, etc. Most of the
Yeah.
developments are actually going to come from things like regenerative medicine.
Mm,
Their work, if somebody is on insulin, their medical research is now working on regenerating the beta cells of the
mm,
pancreas, which produce insulin. So somebody in the future, what's going to happen? if somebody's diagnosed with either type 1 diabetes or type 2, but they need insulin, what will happen is they'll be on insulin for about a week until they create new beta cells for them. They get new beta cells into their pancreas. Then they don't need medications anymore, and it's working just fine. Their pancreas is not producing insulin again. So that's where the cool developments are coming down the line.
Hmm.
Now, some minor developments in the realm of lifestyle is there's always ongoing research of what's the best exercise protocol for a condition. We know that as it stands right now, somebody should be strength training 3 times per week for 3 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions. Now, that's just what's worked in the past. But where I'd like to see is comparisons. Well, what if they did 4 sets? What if they did 4 times per week? What if they did 2 sets at higher repetitions? This research is being done, but it's in its infancy. So that's where additional research is going to come. Now, I doubt any of this is going to lead to leaps in diabetes reversal. Right now, like I said, strength training by itself can lower A1C by 0.8 to 1.0%. Now, if they find a better protocol, might it lower it by more? Sure, but I don't think it's going to lower it by 3%. It might go from 0.8 to 1 to maybe 1 to 1.2%. It's going to be a small improvement. Whereas with regenerative medicine, it's going to be like leaps and bounds.
Any improvement we're taking.
Absolutely. It doesn't take any more time to do the right thing than to do the wrong thing.
Exactly. Igor, thank you so much for that explanation on those secrets. They're no longer secrets now. They're out in the open. And if you want to know more about how to reverse your type 2 diabetes and strategies that can be customized for your condition, this book is for you. I've read a few chapters on it already. I'm hooked to it. And I know if you go and read this book, you're going to benefit out of it. And Igor, are you international? Can some people from here in South Africa, contact you and have a online session with them?
Yeah, absolutely. We're all over the world. I have trainers on Zoom everywhere. We get lots of clients from South Africa, from the UK, from the US, from Australia, from other parts of Canada and Europe. So yeah, we're international.
Awesome. All right. So, and how do we connect with you online?
The easiest way is my website, which is www.fitnesssolutionsplus.ca.
Okay. All right. So we will write them down on the comments there so that you are able to access them. But thank you so much, Igor. We really enjoyed this. Just to close the show, anything that you would like to impart to our listeners there?
No, you asked fantastic questions, and I want to give the message of hope that it is reversible if you put in the work.
Nice and short.
Nice and short, exactly.
Put in the work. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Igor. And we apologize for the hiccups that we had during the show, at the beginning of the show. But yeah, I see it held up. We didn't have any breaks. So yeah, we're looking forward to hearing more from you. And even the comments from our audience would also add on to the discussion that we just had. And if they have any questions, I'll relate them to you so that you can answer them there.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you
My
for
pleasure.
joining NMP. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining NMP Talk Show. And this is where we talk about things that matters health-wise, mental health, and our physical health, anything that has to do with health. We talk about them here on the show. So be sure to join us next week again when we discuss a topic that affects your life and your families. And we're looking forward to having your comments as well. My name is Neo Morapedi, the host of NMP Talk Show, and we're signing out.